Great.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, so hi everyone. This is Pinni here, and Madison's here with me. We're going to be recording this, so if you don't like your face to be on it, please turn off your video or let me know. We're going to be starting in a second. Today is a very special day for many different reasons, so I'm sure we're going to touch on that in different ways. But I just want to start off by saying that this is our second time doing this crazy, magical, miracle Psy-chevrusa, and we decided after last time, which was so amazing, to keep going, and not only to keep going, but also to kind of shift around the order of things. So we're going to be doing me and Madison's chevrusa here in front of you guys, and then splitting off into break rooms for a short, brief chevrusa on the source sheet that we created and sent out to you. Then we'll be back here for a Q&A part where we can share and talk about what we've learned. Just gonna, sorry if I mute you. It's not intentionally personal. I just want to hear my voice. So I guess it's almost Rosh Chodesh. It'll be Rosh Chodesh in about 36 hours. But like Madison said, we're in a holiday after holiday after holiday here. So coming back from the Passover holidays into Iyar, a month with many special qualities, which we'll be discussing today. Cannabis Day, Bicycle Day, founding of ACPT Day, hopefully in the future. ACPT is the new nonprofit we started here in Israel to create greater access to psychedelic therapy. So lots of holidays happening. I'll just start off by saying that Iyar is kind of this month in between Passover and Shavuot. It's this month that is kind of on the way to, in so many ways. And I think today we're going to be discussing various ways that Iyar is a month of healing and a month of integrating and of taking some responsibility over processes. So for me, like the most clear symbol for Iyar is a path. We're stepping on a path. We're walking on that path step by step from one stage of evolution to the next one. And I'm really glad to share this path here together. It's not my path or Madison's path. It's our joint path here, learning together. So we're going to go ahead and start with Madison's portion of the chavrusa. Just going to open it on the screen. Okay,
Everybody is muted, but you can hear me?
See it? Yeah, we can hear you. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right.
So go ahead, Madison.
All right, great. So thank you everyone for being here. As Pinni said, Iyar is kind of this in-between month between Nisan, which is one of the first months of the Jewish calendar. There's 4 New Years, and one of the New Years starts in Nisan. And between Sivan, so in Nisan we had Pesach, and in Sivan we have Shavuot, which is the receiving of the Torah. So Iyar, again, I think it stopped sharing screen for some reason. Pinni, I don't know. Thanks. So Iyar is kind of this connector month, and there's a few things that go on in Iyar. Number one, we have Lag Bomer, which is a holiday celebrating the Hilula passing of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who's said to have revealed the Zohar. We also have something called Pesach Sheni, which is the second Passover. So it's sort of if you somehow missed the mitzvot of the Passover that we celebrated in Nisan, the original Pesach, is this kind of your opportunity to eat matzah again and revisit some of the themes. And then throughout Iyar, we're counting the Omer. So the Omer is a process that starts on the second night of Pesach and goes until Shavuot. And pretty much we go through the Sefirot, which are sort of these Kabbalistic emanations of God's light in different forms. So we have our right arm, which is Chesed, loving kindness, and our left arm, which is Gevurah, which is strength and boundaries. And so we get to look at all the Sefirot and how they manifest in the body. So when I was, when I was putting together my sources, I wanted to really kind of focus on, what is Iyar all about? It's also said that Iyar is an acronym or is a month of healing. And the letters of Iyar in Hebrew are an acronym. I don't have it in front of me. Let me get it. That I am the Lord who who heals you. Ani Hashem Pinni, can you help me with the Hebrew? Refuach? Rofecha. Okay, so just keep this in mind as I'm presenting, because everything I put together here is based off of these ideas. So to start here, when we're talking about, really want to focus on, which is it's often not the vehicle that heals, but the thing that the vehicle gets us to that heals. So when we're talking about doing a psychedelic reading on Torah, on Judaism, the lens through which I look at it is often through this first quote here by Rabbi Nachman. He says in Likutei Moharan, due to imperfect faith, people believe in intermediaries. For example, they believe their job or medicine will provide for / heal them, but really they need to know that those are just intermediaries and the essential thing is God. And so I've heard it said in stronger terms that it's avodah zarah or idolatry to always expect a medicine to do the same thing for you. And sometimes the goal I've seen in a lot of people, whether it's a psychedelic or even a pharmaceutical you take when you're getting sick or whatever, is people often rely on the medicine as the goal in and of itself. But really what the medicine unlocks for us in our minds and in our bodies is what we're after. So the consciousness of the medicine is what heals. The consciousness is the medicine rather than the thing that just takes us to that consciousness. And so I want to look at that in terms of the psychedelic experience and what they're doing in clinical trials today. And one in particular at Johns Hopkins, where they're giving psychedelics or specifically psilocybin to religious professionals, is they're evaluating the quote mystical experience, which scientists have been able to define according to their own criteria based on accounts of mystics from religions from the past, several hundreds, thousands of years, from religions across the world. And what they're finding in psychedelic science is often there's a correlation, not necessarily a causation, but a correlation between the magnitude to which someone experiences healing for what they're going in for, oftentimes in psilocybin treatment for end-of-life anxiety among cancer patients or something like that, and the degree to which they also have a mystical experience. And so there's a causation. So the idea here being that a sense of mysticism might have something to do with a type of healing that we might experience. And Pinni, I know you're a therapist, so you can correct me. And it's not always the case and it's not always reliable, but there is, you could just say that, and we see this in ceremonial work, specifically in indigenous cultures, that spirituality and healing are often put into the same context. So when we talk about healing, I found this quote from Leviticus and I thought it was very relevant, which is, when a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not wrong him. The stranger who resides with you shall be to you as one of your citizens. You shall love him as yourself, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt. And I took this really as, when we do psychedelic work, as kind of looking at the strangers within ourselves and getting to meet a part of ourselves that maybe we weren't familiar with, or maybe we'd been avoiding, or maybe our ancestors, that are held within our kind of genetic and soulful DNA. And how can we embrace all of these parts of ourselves as ourselves? And so I see that as sort of this, if if trauma, if we end up with a fractalization of self and not able to fully embrace ourselves, the opposite of that is really full association with the self. And so I took this Leviticus quote out of context a little and applied it to self-healing. And so specific to healing is, also this faith that it's like, it's never done, it's never over, right? Like maintaining faith that we are, we always have a second chance. And so not to be disheartened by if we screw up or get hurt or whatever. And so again, Rabbi Nachman, I'd say he is my favorite teacher, so you'll be hearing a lot of him maybe. He says, this is one of the most famous quotes by him, but basically, if you believe it can be broken, you believe it can be fixed. Or as it's written here, one shall not be disheartened by the damages and blemishes of his many misdeeds. If you believe that it's possible to ruin, then you believe that it's possible to rectify. And I specifically related this to Pesach Sheni, which really shows, the reasons behind Pesach Sheni are kind of very specific, like why we have this holiday. And it's for people who I think we're like carrying a coffin and we're not able to participate in the sacrifice of Pesach. But taking this kind of in more metaphysical terms, it's when we miss the opportunity to kind of go deep, to whether it's to whether it's to how am I saying this? Like whether we think we're going to do something in a psychedelic experience or a peak experience, whether it's the holiday of Pesach or whether it's in a psychedelic journey, and we just don't really fully get it. Like we just, we still have work to do. It's in the integration process. It's in the weeks and months following it that we have another chance to revisit our intentions. And so that's to me what Pesach Sheni is about, especially given that it falls in Iyar, which is also when we're counting the Omer. Oh yeah, you see it in numbers right underneath. I put the kind of the reasons behind Pesach Sheni. And so with regard to the Omer, I really kind of see it as a psychedelic integration process where, again, we have this kind of rebirth, renewal almost in Nisan with Pesach. And then we get to integrate, like we get to, it's sort of like we're born into this world, we're free. And now what do we do with it? And so the Omer is this period of self-development, self-interrogation, going through each week according to the different Sefirot. And I saw this as somewhat related also to Lag Bomer. So in this quote at the very bottom in blue, the Sefirot express, I got this recently, and everything in this source book that I was reading had a quote, a name associated with the quotes, except for this one, but I loved this quote anyways. So the essence of the body originates from a deeper level of godliness than even the spiritual soul. Since the body has descended further from its exalted origin, it is currently on a lower level. In the era of Mashiach, the essence of the body, which is actually from a higher level of godliness, will be revealed. Then the soul derives spiritual nutrition from the body. And so I got this quote from a course that I'm currently taking on Sefirot embodiment and looking at the way the Sefirot manifest in the body. So again, right hand being chesed, left hand being gevura, and we're kind of following the tree of life all the way down to our feet and beyond. So the way I see it is it's through the body, especially in psychedelic work, that we often encounter healing. And we think that, the soul is at a higher level than the body. And I do think that psychedelic work puts us both in touch with our souls and our bodies in different types of ways that transcend kind of the confines of the mind, which is often the problem, or not the problem, but an obstacle. And so what this really shows is that our bodies have great wisdom. And if we look at the messages that, the messages in the body, and thinking like I have a problem on my right side, my shoulder really hurts, like this whole area hurts, like maybe do I have an issue with chesed in my life that I need to work on, or, looking at any other way that it manifests. And so because the Sefirot are based on these kind of Kabbalistic manifestations of light, again, the Sefirot are the way that God's light comes down into earth in kind of this manifest, tangible reality in different physical form. I kind of credit a lot of that to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, because he was so central to Kabbalah. So, and it's all really about this kind of psychedelic light in grounded earthly form. So the quote above about Lag BaOmer, or about Rabbi Shimon, is be enlightened and understand that this day began the revelation of the goodness of the Torah, within which was hidden, quote, the light that was good, and that which allowed Adam to see from one end of the world to the other, and through which we can see the mysteries of the Creator, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the mysteries of the Creator. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was called the Holy Lamp because through him were revealed the secrets of Torah, that is, the secret of the light that was good, which is hidden in the Torah. Therefore, his book is called the Zohar, literally brilliance, meaning a light which shines from one end of the world to the other. The good light, which is hidden away in the Torah. That is why this day is the best of days for the giving of Torah. This is when the good light in the Torah began to shine forth, and as we have learned. And this day is the 33rd day of the Omer, Lag BaOmer. This is the day of the Hilula, literally rejoicing, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the very day on which he ascended to the highest heavens. So again, Rabbi Shimon is associated with this psychedelic energy, psychedelic light. And then through the counting of the Omer, we see how this light manifests in our bodies as a means of healing. And so it kind of brings together all the concepts of Iyar, which is why I love this month so much, because it's actually, you think there's not that much happening in it. You just have these minor holidays in the Omer, but actually it's a moment of great spiritual transformation. So yeah, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything that I meant to say, but one last thing is that in the Omer, during Iyar is when the manna originally fell from the heavens. And so the manna was kind of a healing sustenance, and it was said that it's hypothesized that the man contained ergot, which is a fungus that grows on rye and is the substance from which LSD is derived. And so I thought that was kind of interesting that this quote unquote angel food came in Iyar. And it was said that, you know, this kind of metaphysical food gave us all of the sustenance that we needed. And it kind of exemplified this divine nourishment. It produced no waste or excess. The body was able to fully absorb it as perfect nutrients. And the word for manna has actually the same letters, I think, as emunah, which means faith. And so what I want to say here is that our sustenance, you know, comes in metaphysical form. And the manna kind of represents that as this angel food, weird, like non-tangible thing that somehow is able to nourish us. So I'll stop there and let Pinni go on with his presentation.
Thanks for that, Madison. I wrote down a few points, so I might kind of connect with some of the things that you've said. I just want to say that please, if you have only one point to take away from this, don't take LSD as the sustenance that you should be using as food every day. I like Alan Watts' quote for psychedelics should be medicine, not diet. So just a reminder that we're currently not in the desert, surrounded by God's very close care, and maybe we should be eating food as well. So just saying that out there also. The Rambam says, "V'yu mezanotecha refuotecha." May your foods become your healing and your health. And personally, for me, I must say that psychedelics have helped me eat much better in my life and change different habits. And I think Iyar is also a time of changing habits and of taking responsibility, human responsibility on God's messages here in this sphere. So that's what I'm going to focus my part on, a little bit about, maybe we can call it taking responsibility or taking action in regards to our visions, our gifts from God. And here's just not as high tech as I should be. Sorry. Here we go. So I'm going to use a bit about Pesach Sheni to kind of talk about that theme of integration as a process of taking responsibility and of taking and human agency, maybe we can call it, or human achievement and discipline. And I'm going to start by talking about the Chag Pesach Sheni, which is the only holiday that is mentioned in the Torah for this month. So the only Deoraita holiday, the only holiday that we are commanded in the Torah to celebrate in this month is basically an echo of Passover, an echo of Pesach. And one thing that's very special about Pesach Sheni is that it's very different from all the rest of the holidays, in that the other holidays of the Torah, God goes to Moses and says, "Hey Moses, tell my people, here's my commandment. They got to do this and that. There's this and that holiday." And Pesach Sheni works the other way around. It says in the Torah, the Hebrew is in the purple and the translation obviously underneath it. Vahi Anashim, there were people who were unclean from being in contact from a corpse, meaning they were tameh from handling a burial ceremony or something similar, and they couldn't be part of the Passover ritual on the original Passover, because when the Korban Pesach, when the Passover ritual was given, it says that people who are tameh, people who are impure, cannot partake in the traditional meal surrounding the sacrifice. And they came up and they said, "Listen, we couldn't do Pesach on Pesach. What should we do?" They come up to Moses and Aaron and they say, "Why should we be missing out? Literally, lama nigara? Why should we be taken out of the opportunity to celebrate this sacrifice and to be part of what Hashem's command for this holiday inside the rest of the congregation, inside the rest of our community? Why should we be separated just because we were doing, this, obviously this mitzvah of burying someone?" And Moshe's response is to go and consult with Hashem, and he comes back and he says, "Okay, here's a new mitzvah. If you were tameh, if you were impure, because you were in touch with the body, or because you were away far from where the sacrifices are being done, which for the first generations of Passover was in the desert, and then only in the Beit HaMikdash in Jerusalem. So if you're away and you can't do the sacrifice, in the second month, on the 14th day, so basically a month after you were supposed to do it, there's another chance for you. And in this evening, you shall keep it." And you shall keep it means eating today, means eating matzah. Then it meant another chance to bring this sacrifice, which is kind of radical. It's basically, the people here are knocking on God's door and asking him what to do when we can't fill out your command that you've given us. We saw the light, now we want to keep doing the work, and we can't. How can we do the work if we're not filling in the standard that you've asked of us? We can't partake. And Hashem's answer is not, you missed out, you better be better next time. It's, here's a second chance. Here's another way where we can include you in Bnei Israel, in the people of Israel, and do this mitzvah. And I wanted to think about Pesach Sheni as maybe a symbol of humanity asking God for a second chance. Okay, similar to, we have God giving humanity second chances all the time. Noach and the Mabul, we have it in Yetziat Mitzrayim. And I found this piece from the Pri Tzadik, Rabbi Tzadok from Lublin, who's a Hasidic mystic from about 2 generations ago, who quotes Rab Chaim Vital, who's a student of the Ari. And he says that Nisan, Iyar, and Sivan, these 3 months resemble the 3 Sfirot, Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferet. So Nisan is kindness or grace. And like Madison said before, Iyar is Gevura, or discipline, or strength, or boundaries, and Tiferet is glory. And Nisan is Chesed, is the grace of God, which without it, we wouldn't have been redeemed. We say that in the Pesach Haggadah. We say, if not for the grace of God, we would have all stayed in Egypt, us and our children and our grandchildren. But Hashem had this amazing wave of, loving kindness, and he got us out of there. So that's what we celebrate in Nisan. And this is due to God's promise to Abraham when he said, I'm going to send your descendants down to Egypt, and they're going to be suffering there. But I promise you, I will gracefully bring them out, and I will have that kindness to bring them back. So Avraham is also the Sephira of Chesed. Tiferet and Sivan resembles Yaakov, and Yaakov is kind of the maybe the integration in some way of Chesed and Din together is Tiferet, and that's the glory of God. That's Tiferet. That's where we get the Torah. That's where we get the integrative rules and ways of behaving and things of doing that Hashem wants us to do. So Tiferet is resembled in Sivan and in Shavuot. And in the month in between, we have Iyar. And Iyar, like I said before, this time of integration, of discipline, of practice, maybe is better word than discipline, of returning again and again and again to that place that we're bringing down Hashem's light into this world. This is the counting of the days, the Sfira, which happens during Omer. And this is the time of man's intercession in discipline in order to be purified and sanctified. This is not us asking Hashem to purify us. This is us purifying ourselves for Hashem. And this is a message that I love about Iyar, which is, I guess, for my childish parts who were enjoying psychedelics for a long time as a place of somewhere between grace and glory, and forgetting all about the discipline in between. I think this is a very important part. And the discipline of returning to revisit, like we can revisit Passover on Pesach Sheni, to revisit the emotional, spiritual flux that is God, and also to bring a trickle of that down into our day-to-day life and turn that into something that we practice and we give to the world as a gift. Another quote I found from the Maggid of Mezrich, who was the Baal Shem Tov's grandson, one of the first forefathers of the Hasidic movement. He says, the commandment in the Torah for Sfirat HaOmer, for the counting of the days during the Omer, it says, Usfartem lachem, and you shall count for you. And it could have just said, Usfartem, and you shall count the days up to Shavuot, but it's Usfartem lachem, you should be counting for you. And this is another way to strengthen that action of us directing ourselves towards God and walking the walk and talking the talk in a way. And what he says is usfartem lachem, sapartem is also to count, but he says this comes from the word sapir. Sapir is a sapphire, and it's one of the stones that was in the Choshen. It's a shiny blue stone, and in the Kabbalah it says also that tchelet, the color, this blue color, domeh layam, yam domeh larakia, the ocean. This color blue is similar to the blue of the ocean. The blue of the ocean is similar to Even HaSapir, and Even HaSapir is like Kisei HaKavod, is like the chair on which, the throne on which God sits. So the sapphire as a symbol is a stone that resembles the shining of the throne of God. And I think the throne, if we think about it, a throne is a chair that a lot of work has been put into. Okay, a lot of hard hours of thinking and creating or if we could take the metaphor of a jewel that needs to be worn down from just a plain rock into a very shiny stone. So what we're doing in these days is we are shining ourselves more and more. We're polishing ourselves. We're getting ourselves ready and closer to Hashem's presence in the glory of Shavuot and Sivan. So my takeaway from what I've learned here so far about Iyar is that Iyar is both a time for healing and also a time for cleaning and purifying and tarnishing and getting ready for Shavuot. But that is also the process of bringing down the light. I don't think it's less of a way. It's just another way. It's not God's light shining brightly into our faces. It's us going to Hashem and saying, well, we missed out sometimes. We were busy taking care of bodies. We were busy taking care of our physical side. We were busy taking care of other things that you've asked us to deal with. And we want a second chance because we want to be close to you. We don't want to be left out of your light. We don't want to be left out of Bnei Israel, out of the people of Israel. And Iyar, again, I'm returning to the fact that there's only one holiday in the Torah that's happening in this month, but Iyar has layers upon layers of celebration. we have the high holidays that Madison mentioned from our last generation, which are, the psychedelics world has a holiday coming out in Iyar this year, and the cannabis, but also Yom Ha'atzmaut, which is the Independence Day of Israel, Yom Yerushalayim, which is the day where we celebrate the holy places in the land of Israel being released or released, we can call it that, I guess. But there are also layers of celebration underneath that. And if we take a look at the Omer, which is a very complicated time for Am Yisrael over the generations, the Omer is not only a happy time, it's a commemoration of thousands of scholars who perished in the time of the Mishnah, and the students of Rabbi Akiva that were all, it says in the Midrash that they perished because they didn't have respect for each other. They were so good and holy about how they were learning the Torah and connecting to God, but they forgot to connect to each other. And I think this is the final message of those sweet Jews who came back to Moses and said, we were busy burying someone. Why should we be left out of Am Yisrael? They didn't say we don't want to be left out of God. We don't want to be left out of connection to each other. And this is a message that I'm taking with me from this month, that by doing the work, by stepping forward in this path, step by step, carefully, slowly, in discipline, in practice, we're not getting only closer to Hashem, we're getting closer to each other and to ultimately what Hashem wants from us in this world, which is to be good to each other. That's what I believe. I just wanted to say that there's an Alan Watts metaphor that I really love for light and creation, and the metaphor is a candle in a box, okay? And you have a box with many different holes, each hole's born from a different tool. So you have a hole on one side made by a hammer, and a hole by one side made by a screwdriver, and a hole made with a saw. And each of these holes have a different shape. And if you take that candle in a box with all these holes and you put it in a dark room, then what you see is a bunch of different shapes of light on the walls. One is a square, and one is a circle, and one is a line. And they're all shining the same light. There's one candle in the middle. And what we're looking at, the different shapes that we see, the different types of people, the different walks of life, the different stains of light on the wall are the same projection of the eternal one in the center. And I love this metaphor because to me, the way that Madison was talking about the Sefirot, it's just another way to talk about how Hashem's presence is different yet one here in this plane. And I think that by going back to Iyar's original message of discipline, not as a bad thing which is scary and nasty to us, but as a real agency that we have in us, that we can strengthen ourselves day by day and become better and stronger and more together, we get to experience more of those shapes, more of those different types of stains of light on the wall, and to see their connection to the original candle. And I'm really, really grateful for having this opportunity to share Torah with people from different walks of our faith, of different perspectives. And psychedelics have been maybe the trigger for some of us, or maybe some lubricant for some of us to come back to this table and sit around these books. But I think this is something that Iyar is teaching us. I'll finish with saying that in Sfirat HaOmer, when you forget to count, there are different opinions in halakha and how you should be recounting. And the one I like the most is the Rebbe Mechabad says that if you missed a few days, then you go back and start counting where you missed out. You need to count anyways because the halacha is, but try and also count those days that you missed out, because you'll be missing out. It's not about giving Hashem the credit for the mitzvah that I did all 49 days. Mark my box, please. We don't want to miss out even one little step on the way to Hashem, and I think that's what Iyar is for me. We're going to be splitting up into, I think we have 4. Right, so we're going to be splitting up into 2 chavrutas here, and I'll be sending the source sheet in the chat box. We'll have I think 12-13 minutes to learn the source sheet, and then come back here for a short question and answer or sharing the portion.
I think we only have 3 Pinni, by the way, that
Okay.
she had to go to work. So
Okay, so we'll set you all up in one chavrusa without us.
I have it in my tablet.
Sorry.
And then first, I want to thank you for organizing this. I'm super excited. Like I totally missed. I wanted to be there last month, and I totally missed it. I came at the wrong time. I was like, I can't believe I did that. So I was so looking forward to this, and it's amazing. And you want me to introduce myself? My name is Mark Philippe. I live in Florida, in Miami, but we're moving to New Hampshire soon. Next month. And so, I actually discovered psychedelic assisted therapy only recently because I had a really traumatic emotional thing that happened. And usually it happens this way, you know? And nothing worked. Psychotherapy didn't work. Psychiatry, taking antidepressants works, but like you realize, you feel better, but you're not healed. You're just like putting a band-aid and you pretend to be fine, but in fact, deep inside, you're still you're not doing well. And psychedelic assisted therapy really did that. It was extremely unpleasant, but this is the only thing that really worked, and it's still, and there's still work to be done. But now you discover as you go, you keep uncovering things, and you can go deeper there, you can get deeper there, and a past life regression, and this, and it was really amazing. So when you ask a question, what about these themes that you brought and you discussed, this connect to mystical psychedelic experience as well, mysticism is practically psychedelic. When you really look at prophecies, you wonder if ever they took something or whatever to be in the especially with the Merkava, you're like, whoa. No wonder nobody can understand it. You need to be there in the same place. So regardless, what I love is that if you do a journey as Jews, it's so very important to be aligned with the energy of the month, or the energy of the holiday, or the energy of the parasha. Also, it could be or a combination of all that. But when you align yourself with this, and this is your intention, and you study it before, and you say, okay, my intention is really to be aligned. Right now, transformation. There's so many themes. The transformation through the Omer, the light, and Omer, the going in direction of Shavuot, so on and so forth. You have so many themes that you can decide to have as an intention. And it would make your journey so much richer, and you never know what sort of insights will come up, So
yeah, thank you for that, Rabbi Mark. It's a pleasure to hear another perspective on these things, and to know that it's not just me connecting those dots, How about Devin or Gabriel? Would you like to join in?
I just put a piece of bread in my mouth, so maybe Gabriel can go next.
Gabriel, would you mind going? Are you driving?
Sure. Oh no, I'm not driving right now.
I'm not a cop.
Yeah, my name. What is that?
I'm not a police officer.
My name's Gabriel Sachs. I definitely have experience with psychedelics, but not a ton. And I'm interested in being more intentional about it. And what was his name? Rabbi Mark, you said? Guy who just, yeah, I liked what he was talking about, how bringing Judaism into use of psychedelics can create some intentionality, which I think you know, I've been also thinking of that in terms of like, you know, today is April 20th, right? So we're thinking about weed use and how to make that actually beneficial, you know, and I think that intentionality, like Ryan Sprague, this guy on YouTube I've been seeing, he talks about interacting with cannabis, and that's been kind of mind-blowing for me. So yeah, as far as the source sheet, I think maybe I would want to read the part about the healing, because that's been something on my mind, and trying to have it be a healing interaction with these substances is important.
I think one of the most psychedelic things I can think about this pasuk of Ani Hashem Rofecha, I am God your healer, is a very good reminder that it's not the medicine, it's not the therapist,
Right.
it's the portion of you which is related to God inside of you, which is the healer. And if you look at the MAPS MDMA PTSD protocol, for example, the way the language there even is like, you know, the inner healer that's within you. I can really connect with the fact that even though we use the medicines, or you know, we interact with them, what we're doing in that interaction is connecting to the part of us that is God. So
Yeah,
I can definitely connect with your interaction. And another funny thing I thought about, you know, Sfirat HaOmer and psychedelics is Sfirat HaOmer is kind of a lesson about tolerance build up also. You know, you start with a little bit, then you need to go a little bit more, and then a little bit. You start from 1 and you finish at 49 somehow. Maybe there's a warning there also.
It's like 49 days in a row or something is
I'm saying
enough.
if you're gonna use acid day after day, you might need 49 times the dose after a few weeks. It's not a medical perspective, but
I think there's also something to just following the energy of the time. So Gabe, what, you know, like what you were saying is like the Jewish calendar is the set and the setting, right? And it's like Iyar is kind of a quiet month, like Pesach preparation and dealing, you know, there's no big holiday. So we actually have the time to focus on healing, to focus on ourselves. And so if you're considering doing healing work or journeying or whatever it is, like maybe Iyar is a good time to do it, like, because that's the energy in the air to really literally, and also the intentionality that we're given through the you know, the different themes of the Omer and, you know, whatever else we just talked about.
Yeah.
And I like what you mentioned before also, that that's not the medicine that heals you, it's the connection that heals you, and the medicine is only a way to help you connect.
Devin, would you like to join in? I hope I'm saying your name right.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Devin. I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I've had just, I don't know, some like interesting experiences in my life that have brought me here to this moment. And one thing that I want to mention that stands out to me from this is that I always thought of Pesach, whenever I thought about Pesach Sheni, I always thought like, no, I already did Pesach. Like I don't need to do Pesach Sheni because I'm so lucky I was able to do it like with everyone else the first time. So like I just don't need to do anything, and maybe on that day I'll like see if I feel something special, but probably I won't because I already did Pesach. But then this is really making me realize how much of an opportunity it is to still tap into Pesach Sheni, even if you already did the first one, because we all always miss something, like no matter what. So it's actually like a really big gift to be able to have a second chance to do Pesach, but it's a really big gift to have a second chance just in life in general, like for anything that is important. So that's really, I'm really grateful that I've discovered this idea here that it's possible to connect to Pesach Sheni in this way that is not this like literal thing where you were like doing some morning funeral, whatever thingy. And actually it could be a really important opportunity for everybody. So yeah, that's the main thing. And actually I guess one other thing is the idea that that the thing that I think Pinni said about how basically like the yeah, how sorry, I'm at work actually, so yeah. But and I work in a synagogue though, so it's okay that I'm in like a Jewish call at work. So but what was I gonna, oh yeah, so basically the idea that it's not that, because I love this idea that it's not the medicine that helps us, it's like the energy or something else inside of it. But also this idea that it's like we can have the chance to ask God to heal us, but we can also take it upon ourselves to try to heal ourselves at the same time, which is kind of like a different thing, because it's still God helping us, but it's like we're helping ourselves, I guess. I don't know, something about that stood out as well. So yeah, those are the two things for me.
Yeah, I want to ride on the tail of that, Devin, if you don't mind, and say that one of the most important lessons I've ever had in psychedelic sessions, especially ones held in some therapeutic context, was learning to ask for help. And I can see the big connection here of, you know, reaching my hand out to the therapist next to me and saying, "Can you please hold my hand? I really need some support here." And that tefillah, that prayer to God, you know, God, I want to have a second chance with you. I want to try and connect with you. I know you're everywhere and you're talking to me all the time, but I want to feel that I'm reaching out to you and that you're answering my prayer, that you're connecting with me. And there's something about learning to ask for healing, learning to ask for help, that is very inherent in psychedelic therapy. Almost every session I've been in, I've seen a person struggling to ask for help, and most of the time finding a way to ask for it. But I think we all share that struggle once we're locked in our, you know, our ruminations and our human thoughts, and to break out of that and to say, Hashem, help me. You know, in the Hasidic world, it's very common to, you know, raise your head to the sky and scream, Tati, you know, Father, help me. I want your attention. You want you to listen to me. And I can see how Iyar is calling us to do that. Don't rely just on how amazingly connected you were on Passover. Keep saying to Hashem, I want to stay in touch after the holidays. I want to still remember that you're here with me. So that's also something that when we're doing the Sfira or we're connecting to Iyar as a month, that's just another reminder to ask for help, to ask for support, to not be to be humble. And when we're humble, we can ask for help because we're not too afraid to, we're not too worried about what that means about us. And another thing is that you said so nicely about those original Jews who asked for this, the Pesach Sheni. I was thinking what they did with all that Korban Pesach. You know, in the halacha of Korban Pesach, you're not allowed to leave even a small scrap or morsel of the sacrifice until the next day, which means that they probably had to gather a bunch of neighbors and a bunch of friends and family to eat that sheep with them, because they were what, 2, 3, 5 people? They still need 20 or 30 people to finish up that sheep. Right? So they were being mizakeh, a bunch of other people. They were giving over to a bunch of other people the opportunity to partake, even though those people already partook and were okay, and they filled up that, you know, they checked that box. But there's something very connecting about, hey, I need another 20, 30 friends and neighbors to come help me do this mitzvah because I was missing out. And so it's also a way of, you know, giving and getting and connecting that is really cool for me.
This is so powerful what you're saying, you know, because the Korban Pesach is, yeah, it's about doing the mitzvah, but the mitzvah is also like sharing. Okay, like I need help. Come on, guys, let's do this big barbecue together and picnic or whatever. And
must have been a blast. I mean,
yeah, I know.
They can have actually that beautiful Korban Pesach steak with matzah, but also have bread with it or beer with it. I mean, just like think about what a real second Pesach kind of barbecue would look like, all because these people wanted to fill in that missed opportunity that they had because they were preoccupied with something that left them outside of the group.
Yeah. What you just said, it connects, and what Devin also you said, it connects with a Hasidic teaching. And right now, I don't remember who said it. We'll remember who said it, of course, just right after. But it's about when Hashem says, okay, if you are tameh because you're in contact with a corpse, with that person, or you were on the road also. If you're away on the road, then you have a second chance. And Hasidic teaching is that it's not about being on the road necessarily. It's suddenly you're estranged from your people. You're estranged from God, but you're estranged from your people also. And there's a great strength. It's just like as Pesach Sheni, look, or whatever for the Korban, we need to invite people. If like it's too big, with not enough people, then gather people. That it's this community thing, and it's the peoplehood that is also part of the healing. Right. So connected.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. I'm just going to say that we're going to be finishing in about 15 minutes or so. And I'm encouraging any of you who have anything else to add on to the conversation to feel free to bring it up. Or maybe Madison, if there's anything you would like to add.
Yeah, I mean, I think just looking at the different months as taking on the themes of the Sefirot. So Chesed being kind of like God's grace, and then Gevara is, Chesed being associated with Nisan, and Gevara being associated with, I really love, it's by the founder of Five Rhythms Dance. It's Dance Project. It's sort of like an guided ecstatic dance. And she said, do you have the discipline to be free? And so much of what I see as psychedelic integration, especially if Iyar is a month of integration, is integration happens often through the body, right? Like yes, it's like journaling and, using our minds to process what happened, but often it's also like, how can we be more embodied and help our body somatically remember these moments of healing, of grace, of whatever that we experience in the psychedelic journey. And so part of that is, yes, you can be free and all over the place and whatever, but there is a discipline to it. And that's what Iyar is like, can we harness it? Like, can we take it, break it down limb by limb through the body in a way that is disciplined so that we can actually maintain and harness that embodied consciousness, that consciousness of the soul that we have, the consciousness as the medicine, right, through the soul and through the body. And so, it's something I really encourage us all, as I think Jews are a very cerebral culture, and we love to do these text studies. And so just if you're counting the Omer, if you feel like just looking at the tree of life and seeing how that manifests in your body, just to kind of try to pay more attention to the sensations, maybe even just do a body scan. Can you feel your feet? Can you feel your hands? And process Torah that way, I think, is really important.
Yeah. You reminded me of a story that I would like to share, but Gabriel, why don't you go ahead and then
I was just gonna ask Madison a couple of questions related to that. First of all, is there like a source or a guide in some way that you would recommend that connects like the Sfirot and the different parts of the Omer, the different days, the different weeks, to something that we could relate to as far as healing the body, as you're saying, and that kind of stuff?
Mm.
And second, and maybe to tack on to that question is, if you're late to the party on that, is it like Pesach Sheni where you have another chance, or are you just like, oh, I missed those weeks, I missed those days?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're late to the party, no worries. I think Pinni said, just go back and you can count. It's the mitzvahs for you, right? Like, it's not like
the mitzvahs also per day. So you can also look at it as 49 different mitzvahs. So even if you missed the first 30, for example, and you still start with 31.
So you start where it's up to now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no need to kind of.
What?
Is there any kind of like teleport? Let's say you have to get through certain spiritual growth to get to a certain sphera, right? So there are certain spheres that you have to kind of go through first. But if you're starting today, in a sense, how do you teleport straight to like the day that you're starting from?
I think if you're leaning into God's grace, then maybe the days that you missed, you only missed counting, not growing. And counting is part of it, it's noticing it. But some of it is happening just because you're here and just because that's the process. It's part of, you are part of nature. Nature is going through this cycle. The world is going through this cycle. And we have an extra mitzvah to commemorate and to notice and to count and to be aware of it. Okay, but now that you're aware of it, are you going to count 30 days backwards? And in halacha, there are different opinions. There's some opinions that if you missed out on saying the sephira and some of the days, then you're not allowed to say the bracha for the sephira, but you're still asked to continue counting. So you won't be saying Hashem's name in vain, which is a different halachic issue, but you can still count. So you count without a bracha. That's kind of the compromise. So you're still noticing, you're just not, maybe for next year you'll make all the brachas, but the important part is you noticing the process and stepping into it.
But we can't beat ourselves, like we said, like, oh my gosh, I start counting now. What happens to the days that I missed? Okay, so you missed, but there you are now. The fact that if someone starts now, it's amazing. Like, can you imagine a parent that says, oh my gosh, my child is starting to do that now? Like, it's like overjoyed. So we need to stop beating ourselves up if we miss something, like there we are now, we're doing it. It's great.
I think also, I just want to add that whether it's like April and May and it's like time to be counting the Omer, or say it's like September, December, July, like no matter what time of the year it is, I just feel like it's always a good idea to sit down and just ask yourself, like, what is chesed? Just start at the beginning, just for yourself. Like, just every chance you get, just redefine chesed and start from there. And for me, I don't even feel comfortable moving on to defining gevura until I feel like I really am solid with chesed. But it's hard because it's like, if you're going to start at the point where the calendar is and you don't go back and start at chesed, for me, I feel like I have to start at the beginning because it like builds on it. And even in years when I have counted the Omer for real, like every day, by 2 or 3 weeks, I'm just like, wait, I forgot what chesed is or something. And it's like, I have to just restart anyway because I like lost the focus. So I don't know, counting the Omer is a really, really, really hard thing. It seems so simple, but it's really hard to do it. And even if you count them, it's even harder to actually find the meaning in it. So it's like, I would say just start at the very, very, very first question, which is like, what is chesed? And just start from there. And if you spend the entire rest of your life trying to answer what is chesed, you're going to live a good life. I think that's enough, It's like,
by just asking where does chesed begin and end, you're already putting gvura into it. You're already putting the boundaries that surround it. And there's a Rabbi Nachman quote that says that, and this is about embodying certain things regarding what Madison said, that if you want to sweeten the dinim, if you want to make the harsh decisions of Hashem sweeter, like the difficulties in life, you're supposed to do two things. You're supposed to dance and clap. And there's a question, why clap? Why is clapping? So clapping is taking the right hand and the left hand and putting them together. And it's bringing din and chesed together for God's glory. So we're clapping, we're basically, we're making tiferet by bringing chesed and gvura together. And that's an embodied way to feel the even just doing this and pushing back and forth, so you can feel, oh, here's the boundary, but here's God's love, and here's the boundary, and here's God's love. There's still a way to feel those things without completing them in a way. Another thing that came up for me while we were discussing this is that we said that Avraham is chesed, and we said that Yaakov is gvura, but our forefather who's in charge of gvura is Yitzchak, and Yitzchak literally means to laugh. Okay, that's his name, and laughing is an embodied way to feel our constrictions. You can see this in psychedelic therapy all the time. People who go from crying to laughing, they're still exploring those physical contractions in their body. And I think that for me, there is a hint here that discipline is not about being serious. Okay? Practice is not about being sad or unhappy. It has a lot of laughter. So laughter is also part of gvura. It's not part of chesed. It's just a reminder that when we're talking here about the discipline side, we're not talking about being cruel to ourselves or being mean to ourselves or judgment in a way that is missing the point that we're part of Hashem. So Yitzchak is here to remind us that. And I just wanted to share a personal story about these kind of embodied physical sphira trips. I broke my left shoulder a few years back, and it took me about half a year to recuperate from it. And I did a mushroom trip a few months after, and both of my shoulders in this trip were hurting and talking to each other. And my left shoulder was crying, why did it break? And it hurt so badly. And my right shoulder was like, what are you complaining about? I've been carrying everything for the past half a year. You know, I'm working so hard and you're resting. And I had this internal kind of argument. And in the end, it was this moment of tiferet, of seeing how both hands have helped each other across, you know, the days of my life and across very odd situations where they needed each other. And how if I can just shut up and let them talk to each other, I can let the din and the chesed meet each other, they turn out to be tiferet, they turn out to be in my heart, they turn out to be a place of, you know, giving back to each other and holding on to each other. And it's very similar to what I said about the clapping, but this is just a personal mushroom trip that I wanted to share with you. And it was very symbolic of this, you know.
I think it's also cool to think about chesed being the masculine side, loving kindness. You kind of associate that sometimes with more feminine qualities, softer qualities, and gevura is the feminine side. And so in this moment of discipline, it's not coming from like a harsh place, but it's actually coming from a nurturing place. And so I've always kind of, it took me a while to understand why gevura is feminine. I mean, obviously it's like giving and receiving, right? And gevura is like the boundaries that hold all of the chesed. And so the question is like, how can we really nurture and cultivate ourselves in order to then have this like alignment and tiferet and this balance, right, between these two forces. And you know, it's again, the quote that I said that I didn't have a source for, the attribution, where it said that like we think of the soul, the neshama, you know, as connected to like the highest realm, you know, it's like the high up God, right, like this God outside ourselves, as being higher than the body, right? But actually the body is just as holy, or might even become more holy in time to come. And that's because we can only get to experience the neshama, like godliness emanation, through the physical. So why isn't the physical being kind of the with the malchut, right? Like keter and malchus being like keter being masculine and malchus being feminine, shechina and whatever different type of godly emanation. So I don't know, I guess this is all to say that, like, you know, it's a time to sort of just turn our assumptions upside down. And, you know, when we're asking for help, to, you know, we can look to the Omer for guidance as far as even what to ask, because sometimes we don't even realize we need help. And then if, you know, if you're looking up the Omer and you're saying, like, it's asking you to ask yourself, you know, where do I have boundaries on this or that, or whatever the theme of the day is. Yeah, like just, I don't know, learning, it's not just asking, like learning how to, it's not just learning that we can ask for help, but learning what we need help with, I think is very, very important. So yeah, Devin, yeah, you just raised your hand.
Gvura is.
Oh no, I'm in the office and everyone keeps walking in, so I'm waiting to.
Okay.
So yeah, Gvura is an expression of loving kindness too. If you let's say in a relationship, someone, you know, like too much chesed is not good, you know, like it is good, but you need to have some restraints, because like if one of the partners says, you know, I want to be in touch with you every minute of the day, I need to be on the phone, I need to be able to reach you all the time, and the other person's like, I need to breathe, you know. So the fact of being able to say, okay, I'm going to let you live your life without having to being on the phone all the time, being over like on top of you all the time, then this is gvura, but this isn't a great expression of love because I love you so much, and I don't want this relationship to be tarnished. Then I'm going to give you some space. So this is gvura also. So it stems from love
and self-respect, right?
Yeah.
Or thinking of others. So
Okay, I think
yeah,
we're gonna wrap it up, Madison.
yeah. So everyone saw what Pinni just put in the chat, but definitely Pinni's doing amazing work with the Access Center, getting it off the ground in Israel. So consider donating. It's a good tzedakah. And yeah, any questions or feedback, commentary, constructive
It was
critique?
amazing. Thank you so much. Like, thank you for organizing this. And I was just thinking of Lag BaOmer and a journey. Like I guess you can do this up north in winter, but in Florida, there's